Well, the AFL, which has publicly backed the Yes campaign, will now no longer feature any campaign material for The Voice in the AFL finals. This was part of the plan. It was meant to be an influential ally of the campaign, but the AFL now seems to be distancing itself from taking a position. Meanwhile, the NRL has sold $400,000 worth of advertising space to the Yes camp during the final series. Joining me now is Shadow Indigenous Affairs Minister Jacinta Nampijinpa. Jacinta, welcome to the program. Did the No camp lobby the AFL to stay neutral on the Voice referendum?
Oh, look, I know that I've expressed very public views about the AFL and, well, all sporting codes and the fact that they shouldn't be taking a political position on this issue. But I also think the AFL are probably now reading the room. They've come under pressure by their own fans. I know that I have certainly been contacted by different fans of different clubs, members from different clubs who have said this is the first time they've ever withdrawn their membership from their club because their club's taken a position on the issue of the Voice. And I think given the polls are now heading in a direction that they probably didn't think they would head, that they've taken this position, hopefully in respect of the fact that Australians should be able to make a determination on a constitutional amendment of their own accord without feeling pressured, certainly by the AFL or other sporting codes.
Now, I want to ask you about this story that's just broken on the Sky News website by our Northern Territory correspondent Matt Cunningham. Allied health students at Charles Darwin University are being cautioned to think carefully about their career choice if they don't support the Voice. This story just breaking on the Sky News website. Associate Professor Bea Staley told students in a message, and I quote, "If you feel you're unable to vote yes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's rights, you might want to reflect deeply on whether a career in allied health is really for you." What's your response to this?
Well, I mean, that's effectively bullying. I mean, I've been contacted, my office has been contacted by students of Charles Darwin University prior to, obviously, this email, who have been concerned that they no longer feel welcome at their own school. They no longer feel like they have the freedom to discuss certainly this issue, that they are being ostracised because the school, the university took the position to support the Voice. I mean, this is a leadership failure, and I would call on the Chancellor, Scott Bowman, to correct this, to ensure that this sort of pressure isn't applied to students by their lecturers. I mean, universities are supposed to be spaces where debate is encouraged, where universities don't take a position, a political position on an issue, but evidently the university has not allowed for this sort of environment to occur at it, and I don't think that is right.
Look, Marcia Langton, one of the Voice co-architects, she gave a speech at the Press Club yesterday. She slammed Peter Dutton's comments where he proposed a second referendum if the first one later this year fails. Have a look at what she had to say.
There's no point in a second referendum because it's not what we want. As Peter Dutton outlined the purpose of his referendum, or to the extent that he did, it is not what we asked for.
Jacinta, does this idea of a second referendum undermine or confuse the No camp's position?
Look, I think what this is in reference to is the fact that obviously the Coalition have had a long-standing position in terms of recognition of Indigenous Australians, and the problem is that, you know, Marcia says this is not what we want, and when Marcia refers to we, she is referring to the handful of people that are making these demands and have hitched the Voice entity, unknown, risky, divisive and permanent entity onto recognition. And evidently the polls are certainly showing that Australians don't want the Voice. There are a lot of Indigenous Australians who don't want this unknown entity known as the Voice, whereas recognition is a completely separate issue. And of course, the Labor government failed to hold constitutional conventions with the Australian people to get to a position where it would provide a likely majority supported vote, which is certainly, I know, what the coalition, there's talks within the coalition would do, is to hold those constitutional conventions to make sure that all Australians
just to be clear,
are
would you support?
issue.
You would support a second referendum just on Indigenous recognition?
Look, at this stage, there are a couple of bridges we've got to cross. The first bridge is getting past this referendum, and that is certainly the focus between now and October 14. And there needs to be obviously further discussion as to a second referendum within party rooms and determinations made that brings everyone together in agreement with that. And that's
doesn't sound like you support it right at this moment.
Oh, look, I'm all for process, and I'm very much consumed with the fact that we're dealing with this referendum at the moment, and that for me is my priority.
All right, Jacinta Price, thank you very much for joining me.